Hello, I'm Dave, and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the New Forest. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the village of Langley, which is in the civil parish of Fawley in Hampshire, just south of Southampton. And we're going to be walking a roughly 5-mile circular-ish route with the odd detour from time to time from Langley, and then we'll go east to Tom's Down, up to Fields Heath, then across to Badminston Common, down to Stanswood, passing by the new house copse and then returning to Langley. Although Langley itself is just outside the old New Forest boundary, our walk is actually inside the New Forest. Now I'm filming at the beginning of October. The sun is out, a little bit of blue sky, but there is a fair bit of cloud about as well. So hopefully it's not going to get too dark later on. The temperature's spot on, should be perfect conditions for a walk. Do come along with us. Well, I've parked my car at the Langley Tavern, which is just behind me here. And as you can see, it's a brick building. It was erected in 1930 for the Brickwood Brewery, and it was refurbished in 2008. However, there is a pub called the Langley Tavern showing on the site on an 1897 map, but it appears to be a different shape, and I expect it'll be our final destination. Well, just before we head out into the countryside, I've just walked down the road from the pub. A couple of things to look at. Firstly, just looking out into the field here, I don't know if you're going to see too much, but they reckon that there was a Roman road here. There's been some debate about its existence, but I think it's agreed that there was one here, and it went from Leap, which was a possible Roman port, heading north to Cadnam, but it certainly shows as an earthworks on an old map. Well, I've just come a little bit further down the road to a place called Whitefield Farm to show you something. It's a very narrow road that goes to Leap Beach, which of course played a big role in the D-Day operations in the Second World War. But Logan and I have done a walk at Leap. Do check it out. But of course, 80 odd years ago, thousands of troops, vehicles and supplies would have come down this road to get to Leap and then on to France. And the reason I'm showing you this bit of sort of tarmac and concrete here is well, it shows where they had to widen the roads or put in huge lay-bys so that there was room for all the vehicles, equipment and tanks and what have you. So I suppose in a way this little lay-by has got a little bit of history attached to it. Well, the first section of the walk takes us on a footpath in a sort of northeasterly direction into the countryside away from the pub. We're not actually going to have a chance to look round the village of Langley itself, but it's a place that has changed quite dramatically over the years. Indeed, even a 1951 map shows very little housing here. T.E. Lawrence, Lawrence of Arabia, spent 3 years here as a child between 1894 and 1896, living at Langley Lodge, which I believe has long since been demolished. But the modern village lies south of where the old manor house was. Well, this delightful pond is Mopley Pond, and it was originally formed by damming a small valley where a couple of streams met to form a mill pond for Mopley Watermill. That's long gone now. An 1897 map certainly shows that the lake has changed over the years. A fishery started up here in 1984, initially for trout and then converted to coarse fishing, carp, roach in 1990. And now it's basically a 3-acre lake split by 3 islands with a deep channel on one side. Morning. Lovely day to be out for a ride. Well, you've got to go when you got to go, haven't you? Well, this little section of the walk is a place called Tom's Down. And we're heading in a sort of northerly direction. It'll take us to the outskirts of the settlement of Blackfield. Now, Blackfield, I don't think actually shows on a 1961 map, but there's been a huge development of housing here over the last few decades. Well, before the 60s, there was just Fawley to the east and Langley to the west. Just looking over there, you can see the tops of the towers of the Fawley oil refinery. Well, a sign that we're very much in autumn. I am no expert on fungi, but it's always nice to admire them anyway. This is a little stream. I think this actually flows into Mopley Pond. But I'm not going to let Logan have a dog dip or have a drink because it looks a bit stagnant, doesn't it? Yeah, sorry fella. What do we got here? Dogs must be kept on leads between 1st of March and 31st of July. So we're in October now, so we're okay. Although he'll be under control, of course. Now this is an important finger post, so we want to go right, which is sort of eastwards towards Stanswood. We're right on the edge of a place called Fields Heath. Okay, I've just made an executive decision regarding my camera because although the sun's out at the moment, there's been so much cloud and it's been so dark. I'm going to switch my cameras over from the GoPro to the Ace Pro and use the low light setting. My little pit stop to show you some of the views here. This is the top of Fields Heath, and well, very much a typical heathland scene where the sort of land's just been left to the wild, as it were. Now this little track that I'm walking along eastwards, just behind me, behind those trees, there's something interesting connected with Pluto. Now I'm not talking about that cute little Disney character, but something connected with the Second World War. There were some storage tanks that were connected with Pluto, and Pluto stood for Pipeline Under the Ocean. And basically there were buried tanks around here to store oil. Basically the oil pipeline went from here to a pump house at Mopley Pond and then on to Leap Beach and then across the Solent to the Isle of Wight and finally across the Channel to France. Of course the oil was used to supply vehicles being used by the Allies just over to the right as well. There's a huge area that's used for gravel and sand extraction today. Well, a bit of a disappointed Whippet now. Only got the red ones left. All the good black ones have gone. I'll just double check just to make sure though. Well, I've just taken a little detour down a track called Badminston Grove just to check out this little brick building. I mentioned the Second World War a moment ago, and sure enough, this is a remnant from World War II. I believe it's an air raid shelter in the woods here. Not 100% sure, I'm no expert, but yes, it must be 80 years old. But with the ivy growing around it, gradually being taken back by nature. Well, Logan's not too keen on exploring inside, so I'll have a look. I haven't got my flashlight with me, so I'm not sure if we're going to see too much. Just a small sort of rectangular building. Well, we're now crossing Badminston Plantation. Should mention just to the north, a little area called Spratsdown. It's a tiny little settlement that arose to house families of construction workers being used to build the naval air station at Calshot that opened in 1913. Something like 40 houses were built. They were no more than wooden shacks. But one of the conditions imposed on the owners was that when the families moved out, the house had to be demolished and the ground returned to farmland. Only 6 of the houses actually survived and were able to be rebuilt. Well, this really is a pretty part of the walk. Little section going through some woodland. Of course, the bracken now all that golden brown colour, and the leaves on the trees gradually losing their greenness and seeing more gold and yellow. Oh, a really spooky part of the route now, right on the edge of Spratsdown Plantation. And out there somewhere are several, well, sort of caves that were used by smugglers in years gone by to store contraband. They were basically dug out pits with reinforced sides and a capping of timber and earth on top. Well, this is a rather idyllic little spot. I believe there was once an earthwork dam here. It was basically they dammed up part of a much silted pond known as Floating Island. And the mill pond supplied a water reservoir for a mill further south. But the pond was drained in 1866, but some of the features, such as the sluice, which I guess is this, can still be seen. Now this looks much fresher water. It's not a hot day today, but still nice for a drink and cool your paws, but perhaps a little bit too chilly for a decent dip. Well, a little update on the route. We're now heading westwards, very much on the homeward leg, and we're in part of the North Solent National Nature Reserve. It's one of the biggest nature reserves in the south, covers something like 820 hectares, although it is fragmented across this area, so this is just part of it. Now, although we've been heading westwards, I'm going to do a tiny little detour to the north, to Dean's Bridge. bit of exploring to do there. There we go. That's what I was looking for. There's another one of these. I think they are air raid shelters. So I'm no expert, but dating back to the Second World War. Looks pretty similar to the one that we saw earlier, doesn't it? And oh, see, have a little peep inside, but that's oh, a little bit more light. Just gives you an idea of the structure. Now, there was one other thing that I was hoping to find in these woods, say just north of Dean's Bridge. It's the remains of a very old cottage called Old Cobb Cottage. I think it was once called Bog Cottage and then Dingley Dell. What a lovely name for a cottage, but it was all demolished in the 1950s. I'm told there's a bit of the wall, but I have looked, but time is getting on and the pub is now open. Well, we're now on the very, very last bit of the walk, sort of retracing our steps along the footpath back to the Langley Tavern, which we ought to visit really, purely for research purposes for the video, of course. Well, here we are, folks, in the beer garden of the Langley Tavern, just testing out their IPA. Lovely stuff. We hope you enjoyed our walk today. If you did, give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. So we've had a super walk today. The sun did come out from time to time. And look, they've got your favourite pipers. There we go. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Good boy.